Language with our kiddos is really tricky. And I remember a time when my daughter would script things from a movie and she had tons and tons of words and tons of language. And then we would learn words with flashcards. And that was very exciting to have the language. I was thankful for that. But I noticed she wasn't taking it and actually making it useful. And that is something we want to address today. So we are going to talk about making language meaningful.
And you know what? What is the point of language? Language is to be used. It's to be meaningful to the person producing the sounds. And so we're going to talk through how we can really investigate in what parts your kid's language might be stuck at or might be flourishing at, but understanding that almost every word, and we're going to use this word, has multiple functions, which means meanings. And so we're going to walk through an example, and then we've actually provided a worksheet that then if you identify one of your kids' words, you can walk through and do a little assessment and identify where their strengths and weaknesses are, which again, take this to like your teacher or your therapist, because then they can start to hone in on a program to help them develop that very specific meaning and function of the word and all their language that they're developing. So let's walk through what this means. Okay. So making language meaningful, you're going to look at, there is different ways that we are going to address one word, okay? Which it kind of like blows everybody's mind when they think, if you think one word being said means it's going to be useful, right? But think about it this way. We're going to go through the first one, echoic, because I think we're all familiar, right? You hear a song, you sing a song. Someone says, say this, and they repeat you back. But does that mean they understand how to use the word? If you went to another country and they dropped you off and taught you how to say the word, how to articulate the word, does that mean that you can use it appropriately? No. So when we are teaching words just to be echoic, just to be repeated, that is only articulation itself, an imitation. That is not functional use of language, okay? So we need to move past teaching language, past that repeat me. We need to move it past to thinking about all these different meanings and almost teaching each one of these individually and very much effectively based on that function. Okay, so we've kind of talked through echoics one. So that would be one. If your kid can repeat it, then guess what? Check it off. They can have an echoic. The next one is label. So if you're pointing to a picture, let's do popcorn in this instance, and I say, what is it? And your child says popcorn, then you can check that one off. That means they're able to label it. Believe it or not, there are kids that will be able to say the word popcorn, echoic, say popcorn, but then when I show them the picture and say, what is this? They cannot say the word popcorn to that. So that's how you're going to start investigating that. I hope this isn't confusing, so I'm going to keep moving through them. Okay. The next one is looking at receptive. So just because a kiddo could say it, maybe even see the picture, can they identify it and point to it? So if you have an array or in a book and you say, hey, find the popcorn, are they able to identify it? And we will see that some kids, even if they're able to do one area, they're not able to do these other areas. So it's very important to kind of look at this and build upon this. The next one is even being able to identify through given a description, right? So what I mean by that is, hey, find and touch the one you eat. You will actually find that some of our kids, because that description, even though they might know what popcorn is, they might be able to have an echoic, they might be able to receptively find it. They're not able to use it as an answer when given a descriptor receptively. That's really important. So that's another thing that you can kind of look at. So this would be, show me the one you eat at the movie, right? And they would have to select the popcorn over the spaghetti or whatever. Well, now you eat spaghetti in some movie theaters, but you get the idea, adding those descriptors. Okay, and then the next one is looking at descriptors with when given expressions. So tell me the one that you eat in the movie theaters. That's different than selecting a picture. They now have to use that. And this is where conversation starts to build. I hear descriptors, I can use my information to share information, my words. And so those are some primary areas that we look at for the function. And then there's one more that is so important. It's probably my favorite one, and where meaning of language really comes to life, and often very overlooked and not always mastered first. And we have to go back and teach it. And that is requesting. So the most important part to language is requesting. And that is actually the first one you should teach out of all these. So if you look at this and you're like, which one should I teach first? Requesting is the most important one. Can they use that to request what they're wanting? And that is the first link to making language meaningful. And then we can start to filter in all these other functions. So what do you want would be, or giving that selection, and then they're able to request with that vocal, a sign, their augmented communication, any of those things would work for that requesting, but are they able to do that? So remember, just because somebody's able to use a word in an isolated format or match the words or all those things, they do not equal meaningful language. We want to make sure we're teaching the whole concept around a word using all these different meanings and functions.
Yeah, that's so great. And I think the thing that stood out to me most in what you're saying is if you have a word and your child doesn't truly understand the function or the meaning of that word, it is like a foreign language. And we need to give them the power to understand that so then they can communicate better. And down the road, it'll help with reading and it will help with life in general. So that's great, great advice. Thank you so much, Dr. Crone. And I hope everybody has a sunny day. We'll see you next time.
Bye.